Okay. So today is our AYRx day, and it's AYRx. So Aerial Yoga RX is Aerial Yoga Therapeutix, basically. So air is a nice terminology to describe what we do in the swing, right? We're in the air. So AYRx is what I call it. And I like the X because it's kind of like the X Factor, or like, you know, X Sports, if you guys remember, like more extreme. So anyhow, so AYRx is the branding for the yoga swings. They're called AYRx Yoga Swings, and that's one of the websites. And it's just nice to get into that habit of calling it AYRx or yoga swings when we're describing the equipment, okay? Important to me, might not be as significant to you guys. And then you'll see in this pretty little logo that there are two programs. There's the AYP and then the AYRx. And you can see that the P turns into an RX with a little swoosh. So that's why I made the X in red like that, because then you can see it kind of looks like an RX. So that was my clever branding. So the AYP is, the AYRx is the AYP plus the focus on restorative and therapeutic version. Okay, so they're the same poses. We're going to learn 4 more sequences, 2 or 3, maybe 4, depending on how many we decide we're going to do. We're going to focus on using the poses in a more therapeutic manner, and we're going to focus on our 12 alignment principles. So I used to teach the AYRx in 2 different components, upper body and lower body. So we break the AYP, just think of P as practice, or P as in poses, right? So that's the AYP, is the poses. And we are practicing the poses. And then in the AYRx, we think of it as the body. So it's the upper body and lower body are the 2 main focuses, and that's how I taught it for the first few years. Now, since I'm doing this professional training, which is a combination or a blending of the 2, I decided to have like a 1-day overview, which is not focused on body parts, but focused on alignment principles. And so 12 is a nice number. So we're going to do 12 alignment principles to begin. Okay, we're going to talk about it, all of them, and then we're going to practice them. And what we're going to do is imagine some of the poses that we learned applying these principles, and we're going to do like a popcorn style. So I'm not going to go over all the poses in the exact order that you will find in the AYRx manual. So this manual has, if we want to just flip through for a minute to about page 67 or so, the first 60 pages is all just information about the spine and about the different body systems. So it goes over hormones and endocrine system and nervous system. And so you don't have to be a body expert or a therapist, but I do want you guys to get familiar with the different body functions and just read what's in there. All of the sections have links. This is an e-manual, so you have this sent to you in an email, so you can click on the links and read. These are like short excerpts from longer articles. So get familiar with the body functions, because that's what we focus on when we do the therapeutics. And then you'll see these really cool body models. So on page 60, or around page 60, if you want to grab a manual from the box back there, you can go along with us. Cool. So body models, this matches the website. So it should either be in the bag or the box, one or the other, hun.
Okay, that's AerialYogaPlay.
Yeah, look in the white bag.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, and you're welcome to page through it, just don't write in it. But
Okay.
yeah. You have an AYRx manual at home, right?
No, I just have an AYP manual.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, well then you get to keep that one.
Really?
That's an oversight. Well, you did the AYRx program previously.
Well, we never did like a full just AYRx.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
All right, well, I remember specifically creating some of the AYRx with you, with the yoga saj and stuff. So here, this is your gift for your contribution to the program.
Thank you.
So Selena's been around since the beginning. So these body models, look on page 60 for me, okay? First of all, it's 206 pages. The AYP manual is 80 pages, which still seems like a lot, but 206. The reason why this is so girthy is because I created 120 body models and templates. And this allows you to quickly reference which part of the body you want to focus on with someone and what poses are appropriate for that part of the body. And then you can go to the templates which matches the playing cards. And then read about, let's just flip to angel wings, for example, which is page, let's see, focus all angel wings. And if you're ever trying to look for something, it's not an, all right, so let's go to 163, which is seated pigeon. So seated pigeon is chilaxin with the knee bent, foot crossed. So right underneath the name, you'll see a really short and sweet description. This short and sweet description matches the cards. Seated pigeon is not one of the cards, but extended leg twist is, but that matches. Let's pick one that matches. So that way my little game here makes sense. Okay, extended leg twist is on page 177. Okay, so that seated pigeon with straight leg T arms, that short description, that's the information that matches the playing cards.
And the circle part.
Yeah, the bottom of the circle. So the top of the circle is inspiration. It's kind of like, what is the metaphor for that pose? Like lead with your heart or drop your hips or something like that. So it's basically kind of inspiration for how we should be moving in the world or guiding us. And then there'll be focal points, benefits, practice. The practice is the same as the AYP. So that should, for the most part, match the AYP manual. Then the alignment principles and the variations are what make the AYRx program so special. Okay, so you'll see there are 120 of these templates for the different poses, and then the body models, back to page 60, turn back to page 60 for me. The body models match the website. So under features, there should be something called body model. And it's literally an interactive body model where you can click on the different red dots, and the red dots kind of move, and it's really cute and clever. I had some software guy build it for me. So you click on one of the red dots and a little information screen will pop up with a little bit of description of that body part, and then it'll say watch now, and a video will pop up, which will give you a video specifically matching what to do for that body part.
Oh my God.
So you click on shoulder, gives you a little bit of information about what poses and what to do about shoulder injuries, and then you go hit watch now, and all of that's for free on the website. So these cute little pictures with the body models, with the guy with the circle with the red, all are taken directly from my website. So it's really great to use that reference because I did shoulders, you know, and arms. So the first half of the manual is upper body, and then the second half is lower body. And the lower body is divided into two sections, basically like lower back and hips and then legs, you know, because the lower body, there's just so much that we do for the legs and feet and ankles and calves that I have like the lower body is like A and B, because the core, the abdominals, the digestive tract, the adrenals, the QL, the piriformis, all these things we address with the lower body. So upper body is the first half of, or the first third of the manual is information, the second third is upper body, and the last third is lower body. Okay? We have lots and lots of poses we can review. So the AYP program requires you to write out descriptions, right? I was showing the outline I give you. You're going to write out your descriptions of how to practice. So it'll match the AYP manual, or it'll match these templates. Now, because I went through all the trouble of writing out all these templates for the alignment principles and the variations, I don't expect you to replicate that. Just read it. You know, I had several teachers working with me for months and months and months to create these templates. They're not perfect. If you find any mistakes, you're welcome to send them to me. I'll do my best to, this is version 2. I'll do my best to make another version and correct all those. But we spent a tremendous amount of time writing all these descriptions out. I don't expect you to have to do that again, okay? All you have to do, the only homework that you're responsible for is for writing out the practice for AYP. that's for you to really get it and remember it. Okay? So what I want to do for today, so the AYRx training is 4 days typically. So we're going to do one of those 4 days. And instead of focusing on upper or lower, we're going to do kind of a blending, right? And the blending we're going to do, I'm going to stand back up since I'm very animated when I talk. And the blending that we are going to do has to do with what I've been kind of infusing into the teachings all weekend anyhow in preparation for this. We're going to mainly focus on the alignment of the spine. So let's look at our alignment principles sheet. This is also in your Google folder. Everyone will get that link.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Okay.
Is this what you're talking about, all little dots?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually light up and move on the website. Mm-hmm.
So, I guess I can just look at this and figure out myself, but so like it says calves, and these are therapeutic places that will
No, just where it's lit up red.
Right here, okay,
Yeah.
but then what are the dots for then?
That's the rest of the body that you can click on that matches the body model on the website.
Oh, okay, so they're just all over. Oh, I see. The same on every page. Okay, got it.
Yeah, unless I'm focusing on the entire body and then you won't see anything lit up. When you move your cursor over that part of the body, it lights up red like that. And so that's what I have illustrated there, is the red zones.
And it shows you poses for that, or if you have an injury?
Well, it shows you poses and it shows you, and it gives you a video to watch to work on that part of the body.
God, this is amazing.
It's pretty expensive. This is what I did in 2016 and 17. I launched the program in 2017. So it's been a while, but again, because it's such a huge breadth of information, and you have to have AYP completed in order to do the AYRx program, because you need to know the poses, right? And so that's basically 2 weekends, right? 40 hours. And so instead of breaking it up where you have to finish the AYP before you can do the AYRx, a lot of my teachers or a lot of the people that are attracted to my program are more in the therapy realms, like even people who are in Pilates and gyrotonic that are taking my training. They really don't care very much about the flips. They're not trying to do acrobatics. So I kept getting people saying, well, I don't really care about that part. Can I just do the AYRx? And I'm like, well, you just have to do at least basic intermediate before you can take the AYRx. And so that's how it kind of became a blending. I would personally prefer this to be a 4-day training instead of 3 days, but most people only have Friday, Saturday, Sunday that they can take off. Monday's a bonus day, but it is, I make myself available on Mondays for every city now. Ideally, people would just come and do like a full week, 6-day intensive, like I was talking about, and we'll just go for it and learn everything. But it's also nice to break it up. A lot of times I'll do 2 weekends in a row for a studio, like 2 days and 2 days, and that way people have like a full week to digest what they just learned.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, because it's a lot of information to deliver in the swing. Now, when we're sitting around just chatting, like some people do in other trainings, it's not so bad, because then you're writing, and then you're listening, and then we're talking. But we do pretty much 6 hours straight in the swing every day, the way that I teach it. We don't have to, but I prefer getting it in the body and working out the body matrix, because when you come in, I can see all your stuff, right? And for you to be an amazing teacher in my eyes, we work your stuff out. And then when you have your stuff worked out, then you're a great teacher. Then you can share it, right? People come in and their posture's all screwed up. How can they teach the alignment in the swing, It's like it has to be in the body, and that's just my own personal preferences. So we always work with you first, and then once you are dialed, then you really know the swing, you really know how to address those parts of the body, and you usually become like a specialized teacher in like lower back or quads or neck or whatever you had issues with, right? Because you realized how much it benefited you. That's usually what happens, and that's really great because each person can have a specialty. So the spine, everybody has a spine, how convenient. Not everybody has lower back pain or neck pain, but the spine is something that as a collective, if we open up this central pathway, like we've been talking about the pillar, and we start to work with our alignment, So we're, of course, improving our posture, but we're improving our digestion, we're improving our energy flow, we're improving the function of the nervous system, we're improving the endocrine system, we're improving the energy managers of the body, on and on and on and on and on I can go about the spine and how essential it is, how crucial it is to our overall health and well-being. So every person I meet has something going on, you know, something about their habits, you know, sitting. A lot of people are dealing with too much stress in their lives, which creates tension, which creates contraction, which creates compression. They're all the same words to me. When somebody says I'm stressed, they're already telling me, and it's a really popular word right now, they're already telling me I'm contracted, I'm compressed, I'm full of tension. If you're full of tension, that means there's no energy flow. It's like this. You know, they're in this constant state of contraction.
You're saying stress is a really popular word right now?
It is. Well, maybe not in Ashland as much as the rest of them.
No, it is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, I know I'm so stressed. It's like, okay, all right. It's a little bit more frenzy down in the Bay Area for sure. Coming from Hawaii, I've noticed. It's like, okay, all right, this is what we're doing. And then, of course, they're like, let's turn off all the power to like this major metropolitan area and see what happens. So people were like so stressed, right? Because that creates a contraction. Fear is a contraction. So what we do is we learn how to lengthen. The remedy is space, right? We're creating spaciousness. We're opening up the body. And that is really the solution for 99% of the issues I see with people. Now with that length, we're always gaining strength. And so I call it dynamic tension. And we've been doing this all weekend, but it's nice to put some language to it and really understand why is this so important, because I'll repeat myself like 100 times and be such a stickler about it. So this idea of being engaged but relaxed, that's really the medicine of the swing. How can we be engaged but relaxed? One part of the body is engaged, which is holding us, and the other part of the body is relaxing, which is getting the benefit of the stretch. Right? If we're too relaxed, then we're just kind of droopy. And if we're too contracted, then we're not getting the stretch, right? We're not getting the drop, and we're not getting the length. So it's really important that we are always playing with that dynamic tension in the body, which is going to create space for the vertebrae. You'll hear me say quite often that we're lengthening the spine out of the pelvis to create space for the vertebrae, which takes pressure off the discs, which allow there to be more lubrication. And when I say energy flow, I'm talking about blood and oxygen and like the nerves and all of that stuff. You know, energy is not just this elusive, like, oh, energy, you know, there's that too. But there's actual blood and oxygen and all this fluid that can move in the body when there's space, you know, kind of like a pumping. Okay, any questions about the spine and why we focus on the spine? I'm gonna pop around, I'm not gonna do these in order per se. But the plumb line, right? So the first thing that we learn is that the crown of the head, everyone touch the crown of the head or where you think the crown of the head is, okay? Most people, that's a little further back. There you go. So that's a little too far too. So the crown of the head, you got it, yeah, is right where your ears come up to meet. Okay, so that's your measuring stick, that little point of the ears. At least that's how I describe it. I'm sure we could have a debate, right? So that's the crown of the head. And if people think the crown of the head is here, they're gonna be too lifted, right? Or if they think the crown of the head is here, they're gonna be too tilted. The way that I find alignment, and again, this is all just Jen Healy world, I just make this shit up. Everybody knows that. So follow it if you like it. Otherwise, you know, I'm sure there's some clinical study that can prove it right or wrong. My measurement is my jawline is level with the earth. So everyone put your hand underneath your jaw and see if it's level with the earth. At that point, the crown of the head is pointing towards the sky. Okay? A little challenging when you're laying down, but get the spine aligned. That was the whole point. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so most people have their chin way tucked in. This is the kind of military neck thing where people take the curvature out of the neck and they think to look straight ahead, they tuck their chin in. So when I say look up, it's not to kink the back of the neck. It's to get the chin lifted enough so that the gaze is actually straight ahead. So tuck your chin in and look, and then lift your chin level and just notice how that changes your gaze. I'm convinced that a lot of the eye problems like very popular eye problems that we have is because of the misalignment of the head and the position of the eyes, and that we don't look up. We're always looking down, and this fatigues the muscles, makes them lazy. So if we look up and look all directions, we're actually strengthening our eye muscles, okay? I look up all the time. I mean, I walk into a room, the first thing I do is like, oh, like what can we hang from here, you know, just for fun. I'm just like, I'm not planning on hanging from every restaurant, but at every place I go into, I immediately look up, immediately. And it's the same thing symbolically, like look up, you know, chin up. That's all symbolic of feeling good, right? Of joy. When people are like, oh, I'm feeling down, they look down. When somebody looks down, they're usually either shy or embarrassed or ashamed or taught to like, a lot of people have been taught not to look at people, to look down. You know, it's kind of like an energetic thing as well. So inviting, especially when I'm like right in their face, everyone's like, I'm just going to look down. I'm like, no, look up. If you don't want to look at me, it's fine, but at least look up to the top corner of the room, right? If you're practicing right in front of people, they get very, I don't know, uncomfortable with the intimacy. Because sometimes, like in my office, the swings are like this far apart. So we're like right here. It's really funny. I'm like, we're close. I usually just say something. Because I like to do the partner play in the swing too. So I keep the swings a lot closer. Then we have a lot of spaciousness here. So all of that, so really we're just only talking about one or two alignment principles so far, but you can see how juicy they are, how thick they are with data and information. So let's go back and look at the sternum and talk about the sternum. So when I say engaged but relaxed, so the sternum lifted. The sternum, which everyone put your hand on your sternum. I'd love it if you sit. I know it's a little inconvenient, but that way I can see. Your sternum's actually a little bit lower.
It doesn't go up?
Well, just work with me. It's a little lower. I'm not debating this with you right now. Yes,
Okay.
Your sternum is this big. But yeah, so there is like, so it's above the solar plexus. So it's like, this is good because some people don't know where their kidneys are. This is why we do the body parts, right? So your sternum, the reason why it's important to me is we focus on this spot. So point to where your sternum is in the back. Okay? So that is what I call behind the heart. So that's your energetic heart, your anahata chakra. Okay? And if your sternum is up here, honey, then the swing is going to be too high. So that's why I wanted it to be a little bit lower. More like the center.
Like
Okay?
where the ribs?
Above the ribs. Mm-hmm.
Like where they're like.
Yeah, above that. Yeah, that's the solar plexus, that little hole below the ribs right there. And then right above that is the sternum. And they're usually spaced about 1.74,
Roughly.
yeah, centimeters or inches apart. And there's like a whole science behind the chakras and everything that we could spend a lot of time with, but we're not today. So the sternum lifting is a really important factor for rearranging the posture. If your sternum is dropped, just play with me and do this together. If your sternum is dropped, feel what happens with your head. You can see why I stand. If your sternum lifts, I'm putting my thumbs on my sternum just to get this idea. When your sternum lifts, your chin can lift and your head can sit over your body. There's like an energetic lift that happens. And most people don't feel that great about themselves. You know, they're completely collapsed. They're collapsed in their chest mainly because they're either sad or they're protecting or they're heavy or they're holding. There's a lot of energetics around the heart. And this entire practice is a heart-centered practice, is a heart-opening practice. Now, if you're guarded and protecting your heart, the last thing you want is some person or swing material trying to like rip you open, right? This is a very uncomfortable, and we've seen this in our workshops, a very uncomfortable place for people to hang out. There's a reason why there's armoring there. There's a reason why there's sadness there. We're kind of like, I call it like surface charge. We're off-gassing that surface charge by digging into the connective tissue and the fascia, which holds all of the memories. Every experience is stored in your body, is stored in your cellular memory. Every experience. And this is what, for me, is way more exciting. You know,
Do you feel like it's stored more in the fascia, or is it all over any place?
cellular memory, right? So every cell,
Anything.
trillions and trillions. But the fascia happens to be, we'll just say, the delivery system for how the muscles move.
Okay.
Okay, so the fascia is the sheath that's over the body between the skin and the muscles. And most of the time it is not the muscles that are weak or stuck or contracted. It's the fascia that is suffocating the muscles because it's gotten so tight and contracted and cemented that the muscle can't move. That's why this is so intense. That's why it's so uncomfortable for people to dig in to these really tender parts of the body that have gotten really stuck and congested. I'm going to pop around a little since we're just kind of in conversation, but the lymph, the nodes or the intersection of the lymph is here and here. I mean, it's everywhere, but these are the, like, you know, the intersecting highways. And we happen to hang from here and here, right? Really tender, usually swollen, inflamed, contracted parts of the body. You can see when there's stagnant energy. You know what I mean, right? But you can see somebody when they have stagnant energy. They look puffy. They look stuck, you know? It's like swampy. People look swampy to me when they're stagnant. It's very strange, but you can tell when somebody's also open and flowing. There's almost like a river flowing through them, right? There's a sense of movement, even if they're just standing perfectly still. You guys get that sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when people come in to see me, I know exactly what's going on. Like, well, how do you know? I'm like, I can see you. I'm looking at you. I can see what's happening. And it's really easy with the swing to get them in tune what's happening because they're like, ow, that sucks, you know? Here, especially, there's armoring here and there's armoring here. A lot of women, not just women, but a lot of women are shut down in their second chakra. So you go to open up their legs and they're like, oh, hell no, you know? And so you'll see that when we go into hummingbird or skydive or a butterfly, some of the most expansive poses for these two hubs, how intense it is, how uncomfortable it is, and how their stuff comes up. It's not just, oh, that part of the body's tight. Like energetically, can't you feel like people get really stirred up? I mean, we haven't had as many workshops this weekend, but we've had some stirred up people in here before. So we needed armpit pads and everything, you know. So yeah, so it is something that we want to be able to be present with and address when it comes up. Are you good?
Yes.
Yeah, what are you thinking about?
I'm receiving all the information. It's a lot.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
You getting it? Yeah. Yeah, and all we have to do is have like our aha moment and then we move right along because like we could literally do this for 4 days, just this. And why do I use the swing? How do I use the swing? Why is it so potent? How come it works so fast? It's so effective and so powerful. And mainly because I've designed it. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. You can go to 10 different classes and you'll have 10 very, very different experiences with different equipment. This equipment and how I use it very specifically is to open up the energy lines, is to work with the connective tissue, wring out the lymph, turn on the energy managers, the endocrine system, and start to activate the quantum field or light body. Now we're going to learn all about that in Module 3, not today, because we're still in Module 2, which is we just need to know the body systems. We need to know what's happening in the swing when we're sliding the leg loops up and down the legs, or when we're sliding the leg loops up and down the arms, like all that work we were doing yesterday. Does anybody feel different after all of those? Yeah, it's really different on the skin, and I always feel amazing, but you know, I do this all the time. You might be sore, it might feel tender or bruised, it might feel strong and open, you know, and fluid, because we're moving all of that stagnation out of the body. And we're doing it very systematically, like you saw in the workshop yesterday, which was really fun. We got to move through almost all the sequences pretty quickly, and how much energy gets built up. And then we bring it down and we give ourselves like a nice long rest and we receive, you know, and that's when we're resetting. I call it a recalibration. when we're in our cocoon, because we really are resetting all these systems that might have been off for decades for some people, that might have been out of balance and out of alignment for a really long time. So people can feel a little disoriented when you start to mess with their posture. You start to change the position of their head and their equilibrium changes. We were talking a little bit last night about the ears, right? And if we're lifting our chin, we're literally shifting like a couple degrees back. And I have found that 90% of the people I work with are just moving head first into the world. We've just had this like very head-centric reality instead of heart first into the world. So if our head comes back over our body, we can actually lead with our heart, which for me represents infinite intelligence, which for me represents like this higher unity consciousness thing that we're all here participating in. But that's just me. Again, module 3, we'll get into Christ consciousness and all that. Right now, let's just keep it simple. But really, I just want to, I've been planting seeds this whole weekend about what we're going to learn in AYRx. I'm planting seeds about what we're going to learn in the ACE program, the Sacred Geometrics, because I think this is the huge big work. You can do it.
Is the ACE program, have you offered it to many people?
I haven't offered it to anyone yet. Yeah, the ACE will be next year. I have all the pieces completed. I just have to put it together in like a 500-page manual. So I'm just like, I'm going to gear up for that this winter. Winter is my time to go inward and create. In the summer, I'm like out and just fluttering around and all that. So my courses are usually, winter, spring. Sometimes I can get some things done in the fall, but usually winter is when I like to go in, just like we're supposed to with the seasons, and then, birth something in the spring. Okay, so I haven't created a new course because I've been building it out. But I did launch the transformational training, which will be part of it, because it's going to be a coaching and empowerment program. All the meditations and coaching components are already completed. It's just the metaphysics and sacred geometrics that I want to flesh out about lay body activation and Merkaba and things like that. It just, there's a lot of teachers out there teaching these things. So I'm just pulling and referencing a lot of information that some people might hear of separately, but they wouldn't associate it with the swing, right? So this is a vehicle for transformation. And when I say that, I really, really, really mean it. Your vehicle for transformation could be a skateboard. It could be your car. It could be your body. But whatever vehicle you use, it's all just a metaphor for how you're moving in the world, right? And any vehicle can get us there. Just like gyrotonics or Pilates or yoga on the floor. I just prefer this particular vehicle, mainly because we get to move in multidimensional space. That's huge. We get to, it's like Jedi flight training for me. I've taught workshops at festivals called Jedi flight training and things like that. And I'm actually serious because we're learning how to uplift our energy systems and remembering how to fly again, which awakens our extrasensory abilities and all this really cool stuff that we can get into. But only if we're open, aligned, and released, right? We're releasing our old paradigm, we're releasing our fear-based reality, we're releasing our programs, we're releasing the belief systems. So the tag for AYP is open, align, release, right? So that's how we get to the AYRx. So application, right? So we're just talking about the application of the poses, and there's always a longer, bigger story we can get into, as you can see, but we're mainly going to focus on the head, right? Let's just for today really master this part of the body. And we're going to break this up into different components and then probably 3 sections so that we're not hair blowing back overwhelmed experience. So let's just focus on the head and the importance of the head and neck. We haven't done a lot of neck, right? A lot of the poses that I teach you guys don't really work on the neck very much, hammock a little. The reason why is because the neck is so tender and we'll just say problematic for a lot of people that if they get a neck injury, they're not going to come back and they're going to be like, oh, this swing is dangerous, right? And so many people are holding so much tension in their neck And you guys know the chakras a little bit, right? So I can do a little bit of symbology, great. The neck is our will and our control and our expression and our choices, and it's our bridge between our head and our heart, right? So the main thing that I like to focus on is getting the head directly over the body so we can lead with the heart. So we're going to keep the bridge open between these two channels. And because the chin is usually tucked in and they take all the curvature out of the neck, then the neck doesn't have its natural buoyancy. So we have to kind of release the occiput. One of the ways that I release the occiput is to interlace the fingers behind the back of the head and pull straight up and out. And so we're going to do a lot more of that today because those are chillaxin arms, right? But usually I'm just saying in AYRP, just support the head. Usually if people are learning new poses, they're not really going to be able to take in that much information to be like, okay, so now your thumbs are wrapped underneath the occiput, you're going to pull up and out on a diagonal, reaching the crown of the head to the top corner of the room. But once somebody has been practicing with you for a while, that's a lot of great information to relieve neck pain. Just that simple pose. The other thing that we'll get back into when we do part B here is this position for chillaxin arms. So we're rotating the shoulders back and down, which allows the heart to open, which is why I say relax your head back into your hands so your heart can lead the way. Okay? So something as simple as chillaxin arms will basically take care of everything we were just talking about, as long as it's done with the right alignment, you know? So we're gonna focus a lot on these, we'll just call them refinements. We're gonna learn some new poses. But I also just want to like dig in to some of the details and practice what we already learned, incorporating some of these new teachings. Now, I don't expect you to be ready to teach an AYRx class, a therapeutics class after this weekend. But I do want you to know the importance of chillaxin arms, the importance of the position of the head, the dynamic tension in opening up the spine and leading with the heart. That's just going to be in your body. You don't have to give all of those details, but you might just want to say, keep the head back over the body, right? You'll hear me say that, or look up. And usually when people say look up, I'm saying look up with your eyes, and they're just kinking their neck, right? We want to get out of that habit, because what people do is they either have their chin collapse down or their head collapse back. And we were talking about that the first day with you, right? And I was like, oh, don't collapse all the way back. It's going to pinch the neck, lift up and out. So that's what the chillaxin arms represent for that. So first 4, dynamic tension, working with the spine, sternum, lifting up, opening the heart, head, plumb line, finding our pillar. We talked about that all weekend. So plumb line and finding the tailbone and the crown of the head communicating with one another again. Super important. And then lead with the heart, the head directly over the body with the gaze up. And I'm saying gaze up because most people are looking down. Gaze up is really like eye level. But because we're retraining the brain, I say look at the top corner of the room. And that really helps strengthen those eye muscles to look up since they're always looking down and counterbalancing. Okay, so that's why I say look up. And it's really uncomfortable for people. It's really great to just experience like, wow, why is that so uncomfortable to look up? You know, it really is more symbolic than it is literal in terms of why would that be uncomfortable, right? Shouldn't be that big of a deal to look up. But you can tell there's a lot of discomfort for people when they change their head position. They're just used to a certain energetic with it. So for me, this entire practice is an upliftment practice, right? We work with the lull of lift. The lull of gravity is really obvious, but there's also lift. That's how airplanes work, right? They're working with the lull of lift. So why don't we go ahead and index this so that we have a nice conversation we can go back and reference, and then we'll get into some poses.